Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome back. Now, as we just saw with Dr. Corsi, as soon as we have a story that is gaining traction, what do? They do ad hominem attacks. And so now we see that happening on a regular basis with Alex Jones. We see this happening with Homeland. It's not just Saturday Night Live and comedy, but also pretend dramas to sell their narrative, to sell the fact that we are making stuff up. They make up stuff. Homeland smears Alex Jones as a progenitor of fake news. A character modeled on Infowars founder creates fake news to slander a political rival in a TV drama. This is an article by Don Salazar. And as they point out in the article, it says they show the president's son running to help rescue a fallen soldier during a gun battle. After reviewing original footage with his producer, this character in Homeland presents an edited version of the video that he created portraying the president's son instead as a coward, running away from the battle. Quote, just by cutting out the ending, the right-wing media personality turns a dead military hero into a coward, all for the sake of taking down a political figure, unquote, says newsbusters.org. Well, where would they get that idea? Where have we seen news outlets that edit, say, 9/11 phone call to make someone like George Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin case? Remember, they set him up. Well, we saw that happening with NBC, Universal. They got sued by Zimmerman for doing that. We also had the CNN and other media play along with Hillary Clinton for a while, at least, saying that she was the war hero, that she was shot at when she landed. This is what they do. And so what they do, they create a drama, or they create comedy routines on Saturday Night Live to show the other side doing exactly what they do. As an example of this, it was a week ago that we had former CIA Director McCain Hayden slamming pro-Trump media for peddling illegitimate and non-fact-based worldviews. Now, this is because the anti-Trump news is totally failing. So they need to come up with comedy. They need to come up with drama. This is what they're doing. And of course, he came out last week, on last Monday. He criticized the pro-Donald Trump bloc of conservative media for advancing what he deemed to be a, quote, illegitimate worldview. He said, I think Breitbart and the likes are off the chart in terms of shaping the data to meet preconceptions. No, not Saturday Night Live, not Homeland, not the entertainment media, not the news media that edits 9/11 phone calls to indict someone, to make them look criminal, okay? This is not what we're doing, it's what they're doing. He says one of the most horrible political scandals in American history, if true, would be the fact that the American intelligence services were listening to Donald Trump. Now, who would think that the people who are deliberately trying to set him up would do something like that? Anybody who's been following the news would think that, quite frankly. And this is the same guy who goes on to say, well, it's kind of scary. He says, if he has questions about that, it's very simple. He could just call up the intelligence services and ask them if this was true. You know, like Senator Wyden asked James Clapper if they were listening to Americans' phone calls, if they were recording our metadata and other information about us. And of course, what do? He looked right at the senator and lied, and it was McCain Hayden who said Ron Wyden set him up. Ron Wyden knew that they were surveilling America, and he made him tell that lie. So that's the kind of narrative that we get from these people. He says it's kind of scary. We have a post-fact world. No, what we have is a post-constitutional republic that is being run by people like McCain Hayden, who think that they don't need a constitution. They think they don't even need the Patriot Act, which itself has many unconstitutional aspects. He said, I had a direct order from the President of the United States. I could do whatever I wanted to. See, McCain Hayden thinks that it's a dictatorship, and this is something that's been going on for a very long time. Both parties, going back to Richard Nixon when he said, if the president does it, it's not illegal. That's basically what he thinks. So meanwhile, we've got John McCain calling on Trump to clarify the wiretapping claim. He says, show us your evidence. Who would possibly believe that? Well, Kellyanne Conway says, you know, there are any number of ways that the president could have been monitored. We know that if they're going to monitor Mr. and Mrs. Verizon, certainly, don't you think they would be interested in the president-elect or the presidential candidate, Trump? Meanwhile, we've got Congress looking at a deadline. They say, show us the evidence. We want to hear the evidence. And now they're calling for hearings, and they want to talk to Roger Stone. So we're going to talk to Roger Stone as well. We have John McCain renewing this failing Russian narrative, calling for Roger Stone to be brought before the Senate to answer questions because he had a Twitter conversation with Guccifer. This is something that's come out now. We've got Roger Stone on the line. Roger, your comments on John McCain's call for you to testify before the Senate.
Well, the senator might be careful because he might get what he's wishing for. I would be delighted to go before the Senate or any other fair and balanced investigation to prove that this entire claim of Russian collusion with top Trump lieutenants is nonsense. In this case, I had a casual exchange on Twitter with someone claiming to be a hacker known as Guccifer 2.0, who claims to be Romanian. I was unaware at the time that there are allegations that Guccifer may or may not be in the service of the Russians. But it's immaterial because not only was my exchange with him, which I have publicly released, benign, but it's all ex post facto. It happened after the hacking of the DNC documents and long after they have been made public. So I could not collude with him in a conversation that took place after the act.
Roger, I saw the Twitter responses as I was on vacation. There was, I think it was Daily Mail put out, exclusive connection between Roger Stone and Guccifer 2.0. I looked at, I think it was 2 tweets and a couple of private messages. It was clear from what went back and forth that you guys didn't know each other. It was like, oh, thanks for doing that. Thanks for mentioning me and so forth. It was very innocuous, and it was very clear that you guys did not have a relationship.
Well, and if you look at the media at the time, while there were some underground reports alleging that he is a Russian asset, the New York Times, to their credit, had a piece on August 13th. I happened to tweet him on August 14th, but I didn't see the piece. And again, there is no proof. There's just the supposition and the strong belief of the Central Intelligence Agency that he's a Russian asset. Hell, Rob, they think I'm a Russian asset.
Well, maybe they weren't paying attention this last week with the WikiLeaks releases of VAULT7 when they made it very clear that part of what they had developed was the ability, as many people have been telling us throughout this entire thing, the ability to masquerade as if they were Russian agents when in fact they weren't.
Well, and I can tell you based on the hit job piece that got this ball rolling, which was done by a fake news outlet called The Smoking Gun, that they have utilized data about me and my businesses and my family and my political activities that could only have been gleaned from surveillance. Mm-hmm. So the deep state has either had me or Guccifer 0.20 or 2.0 or both of us under surveillance. They are now illegally leaking that. This is the bird on the phone wire syndrome. So in other words, as soon as The Smoking Gun had this, a dozen phony news outlets like MSNBC and Raw Story and GQ and many others are now parroting the headline. FBI has proof of Trump associate, correspondence with Russian hacker. It doesn't tell the whole story. That's why it's fake news. It's purposely misleading.
Yeah, it's a smear, it's innuendo, it's a personal attack. And of course, Roger, who would ever believe that the intelligence services would be monitoring people's conversations? I mean, none of this stuff ever happens, right? We heard that from the Obama administration. Far be it from them to ever monitor anybody's phone conversations. That's ridiculous that after everything that we've had, especially this last week with Snowden, after all this documentation, that they would think that it's absurd to even put forth the idea that the American government would be listening to political enemies.
Well, and look, this fellow, James Clapper, already got caught lying about all the metadata that is being kept on Americans. He had to backtrack to avoid a perjury charge. These are the same people who lied about Benghazi, who lied about weapons of mass destruction in Saddam Hussein, lied about rendition, lied about torture in the Iraq War. Lying is what they do, and there's no reason to believe them now. But this is a damnable smear.
Absolutely.
This is an attempt.
Well, let's hope we're out of time, Roger, but let's hope that he does get exactly what he was asking for, and that is the truth. Thank you so much, and we'll stay tuned for more of that. Thank you, Roger.
Great to be here.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.